We have a massive market over here, over 550 million people in Europe. It's probably not as competitive as the States or as aggressive online. I feel we don't have the access to products you guys have over there.
Hey everybody, welcome back to SUBTA Studios. Chris George, your co-founder and chairman of SUBTA here. Super excited. I've got my good friend Ken Byrn from RedSky Fulfillment. Ken, thank you so much for being on today. I know you've built an amazing business there in Europe. So if you could really quickly tell the audience a little bit about yourself and RedSky.
Yeah, so I come from an e-commerce background myself. We were selling Irish-made products in the States, Canada, and Japan for a good number of years. And we saw a gap in the market for good fulfillment across Europe, that a lot of the North American brands trying to get into Europe were facing a lot of barriers. And so we set up RedSky Fulfillment, originally just offering fulfillment services, but we quickly found that getting into Europe is more than just having fulfillment. So we changed our company to RedSky Europe, and now we offer a range of added services, such as we've a managed VAT platform that we developed in-house, so we can manage VAT obligations right across Europe for international online retailers. We work with a variety of logistics companies, so we can take inventory from anywhere in the world and get it into us here in Ireland. And then we have all our core fulfillment services as well.
I think what I'm excited about today, and for those of you listening, is a lot of these brands in North America and in the US thinking about going to Europe. I think there's some possibilities there, right? And there's an opportunity to expand your market, drive more subscriptions, and RedSky, you have the ability to help brands do this. Is that right?
We have a massive market over here, over 550 million people in Europe, and it's probably not as competitive as the States or as aggressive online. I feel we don't have the access to products you guys have over there, and it's probably due to a lot of barriers to entry. So we felt there was a lot of opportunities for good e-commerce brands that are well established in North America and have the skills to really use our local expertise to help them get into the marketplace here and really explore this market.
Well, that's super interesting. And I know I've been talking to a few of our brands as well as other brands about their thoughts around that. And I think part of it is we're not that educated as to some of the things with the taxes and the tariffs and what shipping can look like, and thinking about how the site needs to be changed for the European consumer. Before we even get into all of that, how have things been impacted during these difficult times with COVID-19?
I suppose like the rest of the world, it was overnight. The world changed, and buying behaviors changed, and definitely the online business. For example, we have a baking company in here. Not in a million years would we have ever thought that we would have a baking company be fulfilling orders, but their online business exploded. They weren't even an online company. So that was really interesting and exciting to work with. But I suppose I was reading a report the other day in Europe, which was really interesting, and they said that 50% of all online sales in the last 3 months in Europe were by people who had never ever bought anything online before. Oh. So I think COVID introduced a lot of people to online. I think people now are exploring the global opportunities with purchasing online, and talking to a lot of our North American clients, saw a huge spike in traffic from Europe during COVID, when people had time to really explore and look around the world for products. So it's definitely a different world.
That's great to hear. I mean, thinking about these brands that want to get into the European market, more and more European consumers are now purchasing online because of COVID. In the US, I think it's like 17% of all retail sales are online. And I think that this number is going to grow faster and get to 25 faster than it would have ever been because of COVID. What's that percentage in Europe right now? Do you know?
In Europe, it's actually pretty similar, but big forecasts for growth. I think it's at about 16.5%, just under 17%. Similar. But the projections for the next 5 years, exactly what you're talking about, is up into the low to mid 20s.
Right. So tell me a little bit about some of the fastest growing categories.
I think Europe can be a little bit strange for North American companies, because while we're one zone in a lot of respects, it's still made up of a lot of different countries and cultures and languages, and that in itself brings a lot of anomalies. But again, a lot of the fastest growing brands here would be the men's grooming products, pet care, cosmetics, apparel and footwear would be one of the top highest growing categories here, definitely in Europe and probably in the last number of years.
How has it been with grocery delivery or food delivery? Has that started to grow? What's that looking like?
It has, but very localized. Well, a lot of them are trying to grow nationally. They're finding a lot of difficulties here. So a lot of them are kind of within the big urban populations, and again, taking a leaf out a lot of the what's happened in the US. There's a big push towards it, again, with COVID. The purchasing groceries online was huge growth in that, and supermarkets here and food companies just didn't have the infrastructure for that. That's what became apparent very, very quickly here. Couriers companies didn't have the infrastructure, they didn't have the manpower or even the technology to manage it. So a lot of them now on the back of that are really trying to grow a sustainable business. But as I say, with COVID overnight, it just really threw in a new market and a very, very big market. But as I say, a lot of them now are trying to put in infrastructure to grow it as more of a sustainable business.
They should be thinking about that. That kind of leads me to my next question. So, the U.S. is really probably at the forefront of subscriptions, more specifically subscription boxes, but in general, subscriptions. Why do you think that the European market hasn't sort of hit that market yet?
I suppose I talked to you about this last year when I was down with you in Detroit. I was fascinated with the subscription box model, and I think it's a super model. I know it's growing like crazy in the States, and I think people like it as well. It's a nice model of getting products every month. My thoughts on it are, I think the US is at the forefront of innovation in e-commerce. I don't think anybody would disagree with that, with the innovation and the entrepreneurship with e-commerce. So I think you have developed it into a really sustainable sector there. And while some of your experts have tried to get into Europe, sending boxes that are fulfilled from the US into Europe are getting caught in customs, taxes, slow delivery. Getting into Europe itself, as we spoke about earlier, has a lot of barriers with tax and localized knowledge. So I think now it's opening up a little bit, and the model of our company really was to add value where we could to really help these brands get in, because there's no doubt they're experts in the business of subscription boxes, but dealing with Europe, it brings up a lot of new issues they may never have dealt with before. And I feel that's why there's probably a lack of them here. I think the next number of years it's going to see massive growth here, because I think there's a big appetite for it here. As I said, we don't tend to have the access to products you guys have. We tend to be okay spending a little bit more on products. We don't mind paying for shipping. So I think there's a really ripe market here for good companies to get in and explore it. But I think there is an element of commitment. You need to put a good strategy in place.
Have you seen this happen with another sort of industry where it started in the US and then it really expanded in Europe?
Probably every industry in Europe started in the US and expanded into Europe. I think the whole online thing, I think we're still on catch up. We have all the franchise food chains and everything here now that you guys have had for years and years. I mean, 5 years ago, you wouldn't see somebody with a takeout coffee walking down the street would be unusual. And now it's across the board.
Everywhere, right?
Yeah. So I think a lot of what you guys are doing over there, for what you have an advantage in the States is within your own homeland, having such a huge marketplace that a lot of companies never needed to look outside of it. But I think with the internet being so global now, social media is not as geo-specific as it was. I know when we were selling in the States, we pretty much got US traffic on our website. That's what we targeted and that's what we got. But increasingly, I'm talking to companies that are saying, we're not targeting Europe, but we have all this European traffic. And I think it's due to social media and just different way the word spreads. So it's a really interesting time for companies to take advantage of that.
What are the things that brands should be thinking about when wanting to get into the European market, what's the best way to handle fulfillment, whether that's shipping the products to you, how's the VAT managed, the taxes, the tariffs, what should they be doing to their website? Walk me through that so that those listening can think about how they can really get into the market.
I suppose we spoke about the website and the customer interaction. In Europe, we like to see a kind of a localized solution. Again, if we see a US company selling in Europe, if they're fulfilling from the States, we know we're going to get caught with customs and tariffs. So a lot of companies coming in here will create a .eu or a /Europe website to show that they are in the market and they're committed to the market. And then a lot of times here, they look at return address. Is it a localized return address? So they don't have the fears in purchasing. They know what they're going to pay is what the final price is going to be. With the fulfillment, we offer a lot of flexibility here because we understand the difficulties getting into Europe. So we can take products directly from manufacturers. We can kit and box up products. So any of that is not an issue to us, and we offer a lot of flexibility because we understand the issues of coming in here, and a lot of our clients would take to that. The VAT itself is another beast, another anomaly altogether, and so much so we actually developed our own VAT platform that we developed in-house here. Because as I said earlier, where Europe is one zone and they are trying to make it into a single market, you do have different countries in Europe and they do have different VAT regulations, regimes. So we've developed, just very, very simply, I don't want to bore you on a Friday with VAT talk, but very simply what we do is we've developed a VAT platform here. We register our clients for VAT in Ireland. We don't charge for that. You don't need to set up companies or entities. We just simply register they receive a VAT number. So every sale that they make, regardless of the country in Europe, it processed through our VAT platform. So every sale that they will ever make in Europe happens in Ireland. And so they only have to manage their VAT in Ireland. We have to do 6 VAT submissions per year, which we manage for our clients. And we just charge a small per order fee that's processed through the VAT platform. I suppose where you see the value in that, where you see the alternative is you register in Europe for VAT. And when you meet certain selling thresholds in any country in Europe, you're required to register in that particular country for VAT and do your VAT submissions. And if you think we have 28 countries here in Europe currently, with the UK still hanging in there, that you could have 10 countries of VAT returns to do every month, and they have to be in German, French, Italian. So we've taken that out. And how the mechanism works for us is we're registered in 10 countries in Europe at the moment. We register more as the need becomes apparent. So we're doing our German VAT return on a monthly basis. We're doing it for 15 different companies. So for us, the economies of scale work. And it means our clients only ever have to do VAT returns in Ireland, and they're completely compliant in Europe, regardless of how big they ever grow. So it's very, we don't believe there's anybody else has this offering. There's a lot of solutions that will offer technology that will accumulate your VAT that you have to pay in the various countries, but we actually manage the process. So it's been really well taken to by our clients, and it really takes a serious barrier to entry here in Europe.
RedSky Europe is an award-winning e-commerce fulfillment company based in Ireland, the gateway to Europe. As market access specialists, RedSky offer a suite of services for e-commerce companies in subscription boxes looking to enter the lucrative European marketplace. RedSky specialize in the areas of fulfillment, European sales tax management, and international logistics. To find out how RedSky can help your company grow, contact sales@redskyeurope.com.
A brand should be thinking about a few things. These are some of the things that are coming to the top of my mind. So you want to be able to have the site adjust based on a consumer coming in from a different IP address. So then everything kind of shows in the European dollar. Would a brand want to send all of their products directly from manufacturer? Let's say it's coming overseas. Should that go right to you? Or should that come into the US and they should kit it and send those kits to you? Tell me the process that works the best.
we have a couple of clients that we take some of their products we have to kit together, and some of it comes from Italy, some comes from China, some comes from Vietnam, and we do a small kitting process and build a SKU out of that, and we get that out to their customers like that. So we're very flexible like that. What we would generally recommend is to concentrate on a region first in Europe. So if you're coming in here, say I'm going to focus on Germany, and we have partners that work on digital marketing and finding customers. These guys are experts in Europe.
Are there certain marketplaces that'll do better based on product category?
Well, the UK, Germany, France, and Italy will be the big strong markets.
Yeah. I feel like UK is probably up there as one of the top.
70 million, the UK, a great buying market, pay with the sterling. So it's a really good market. But what we have tried to develop here, Chris, to be honest with you, we've tried to develop it that a brand can get into Europe without it being a huge commitment for them. Getting into any market is a certain level of commitment, but it doesn't have to be a huge project that you can put off for a year. So we try to work with them that we can start you small. It doesn't take a massive financial or personnel commitment. We will work with you in that, get started, and we can just grow it organically from there. And I think that's a big USP for us.
The recommendations are, I'd get the products over to you, you'd kit it, now you're shipping. What's the shipping transit times look like within Europe, coming from your fulfillment center? Obviously faster than coming from US directly to the UK, but what do the shipping times look like compared to the US?
Here in Europe, what we would have in our standard shipping time would be 2 to 4 days, pretty much anywhere in Europe. UK, our standard shipping is generally next day. And I need a major Western markets, then it's 2 to 4 days. And then a little bit further east, then it can be up to 5 days, depending. Some of the Eastern countries don't have the infrastructure. Having said that, e-commerce, the growth in e-commerce over there is dwarfing the rest of Europe, but they're very, very new markets.
And what's the shipping rates? How do they compare?
Just to give you an example, so if we were sending a 1 kg 2.2 pound package to the UK, like our total fulfillment fees, so that's for us to pick, pack, even an element of kitting we'll throw into that, pick, pack, standard packaging process, shipping label, and track delivery to a customer. We can pretty much do that for in around €9. That's all in price. Again, with products and projects.
What is that to US? What is that to US?
Probably around $10.50.
What's the shipping portion of that though? Probably
shipping portion of that, $6-7.
And do you recommend, if a brand's thinking about going to the European market, that they charge more for that product? Yeah,
well, a lot of times what we will see here, so if I'm looking at a US site and I look at their euro equivalent, for us what would be normal a lot of times, if it's $29, it's €29, which would translate to around $37. But again, if the option is buying from a US site, long delivery times, probably have to pay for shipping. I'm probably going to get caught with customs and administration and taxes. So a lot of times they will achieve a higher price point here in Europe. But for us, it's what's normal. Even though we, like anybody else, will shop for prices while online, we do expect to see differential in prices, because it's not all of it. It's where it's coming from, how you're receiving it, your customer experience. So there's value outside of just the retail price.
Like if you're going to go into the European market, then you need to partner with somebody like RedSky, get your product there, let them handle the fulfillment and shipping. How do we think about how much to ship to you? Is there a minimum? Do I need to ship at least 100 over to you? Do I need 500? A lot of brands need to move their product within a month, right? They want to move it within a month. A quarterly brand, a little bit easier because you got more time to build the market up. Do you recommend them trying to build the site for the European market, handle some of the fulfillment in-house first, and then move to you? Or do you recommend get some product over to you, test the market that way, and then try to scale?
My thoughts on that are that if I was in the US, a subscription box wanted to come into Europe, I think it's very difficult to try to service your initial European clients from the States, because again, you have the problems of your customs and long delivery times.
Shipping,
And plus the people in Europe, if they see it's being fulfilled from the States, they won't purchase because they know of all of that. What I would suggest, which I think would be a really good strategy and a kind of an interesting strategy, is to look at it nearly like a crowdfunding project. So if you launch your US site, You let people know we're going to be fulfilling the first boxes in 2 months' time. We're doing a pre-order here. Try to gather up an element of orders for Europe. Clearly state we're going to be using European fulfillment, so this will be the final price. So if you could gather up a population of 200 people to start off in 2 months' time, get us in 200 orders, and we can start growing from there.
Yeah, but if you're already a brand, if you already exist, you're saying launch a separate site like a .eu sort of site. I feel like if you were a big enough brand, you may not have to do that. I feel like you could. If you got ad dollars spent, we clearly know that ad spend works in Europe too with Google SEO and Facebook.
Yeah.
You theoretically could probably, start off with a couple. I feel like I could send a couple hundred units of one of our brand's Gentleman's Box. It could sit in your warehouse, and we could probably use some ad spend to sell those, right? You also already have some traffic that you're already paying for that's coming from Europe that's hitting your site.
Yeah.
And if you use the right sort of plugins, they'll go to the right European site. So really, I think if you're established, it makes sense to try. I think if you're starting out, launch a European site, like you said, build some hype, get some pre-orders. Like, could somebody start with 200 units? Like, what is your minimum? What are you looking for? Just so that those listening that want to get to the European market, they know, like, one, I want them to be able to reach out to you because I love the idea of them expanding their business. But what's the sort of minimum you're looking for?
I suppose to go into any market, there needs to be an element of commitment. Yeah, I think a couple of hundred boxes, get them in here, do your Google ad spend in the major markets like your London or your Berlin, really targeted market, and use the information that you have on the demographics. Who's buying your box in the States? We don't have a minimum here because simply, to give you an example, we have a client here and they do between 20 and 25,000 orders a month in the States. They're in here with us at the moment, and they're not near those volumes, but we know they're going to grow them, and it may take a little bit longer. They've just really launched in Europe. So we'll work with them. We know these are going to be a great client, going to be with us for the long term. Our Google ad spend isn't as much here. You get a lot more bang for your buck because we don't have the competition online in trying to find customers. I think the newness of a subscription box coming in, we look at American brands as brands of quality here.
Those of you listening, I think it's a no-brainer. You should be thinking about the European market. Ken is a super humble guy. I've known him now for the last year. So I'm going to say this for him. I mean, they've got a really good opportunity and a good resource for you to do it. I think you should reach out. Ken, if they want to reach out and talk to you, where should they do that? How can they get a hold of you to talk about getting into the European market?
Yeah, they can contact us through our website, redskyeurope.com, or drop us a line at info@redskyeurope.com. We think it's a huge market. I think the job you guys do at SUBTA is amazing, and we'd be willing to really work hard and help them out in whatever way we can. And anyone that wants to reach out to them, even to give a bit of advice, we have no issues in giving advice without any strings attached.
I love that. If you guys listening want me to give you an intro, my email, chris@SUBTA. Ken, thank you so much for being on. This was awesome, super insightful for those listening. And if you want to get to the European market, reach out to Ken and he can help you do that. Thank you guys. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.